Hi, it's Dave. The extreme shelter-in-place orders from the Bay Area are increasingly being used as a model across the country. And now the state of California has adopted a similar order banning all non-essential business. They've effectively shut down the economy of a 40 million person state. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the need for an alternative plan. A plan that can mitigate the spread of the virus, yet doesn't devastate the lives of millions of people. Alright, today we also learned that the entire state of New York has also adopted this type of shelter-in-place order, which basically bans all non-essential business. Now, this current approach, in my opinion, is too narrow-minded. They're drafted by health officials trying to stop this disease, but they have no clue on the economic devastation that these orders are causing. For example, let's look at the California order. California has 40 million people in the state, and we can imagine that each person probably has a loss of, let's say, $1,000 per week during the shutdown. But this is a rough figure because some people will have higher loss and some people have lower loss. So let's just average at $1,000 per week. But this is not also including the massive losses that businesses are going to incur as well. Over 3 weeks, let's just say it's an average of $3,000 of loss per person for 40 million people. That's $120 billion of cost. Now, this is truly devastating in terms of the scope of economic devastation. And I wonder if the governor is really calculating this. Who's paying for this $120 billion in economic cost? I wonder how much is California, the state government, really going to pitch in from their budget? Maybe 1 or 2%? Who's paying for the rest? The governor is asking for $1 billion of aid from the federal government. But this just shows how out of touch politicians are. Who's paying for the rest of the $120 billion? Is it going to be companies? Is it going to be individuals? Is it going to be the single mom who's living paycheck to paycheck and now she's out of a job and she doesn't know what to do? These politicians and health officials need to figure out who's paying for this and how they're going to pay for this before they pass an order like this. And don't tell me that we're going to just put it on a credit card, like stick it in our federal debt and let our kids pay for that. Because I don't want my kids and the next generation to have to pay for the mistakes that we're doing right now. We need smart and creative thinking. We need humility to learn from other countries. And we need to isolate the problem to protect the vulnerable without destroying the lives of millions of people. The Wall Street Journal just came out with an opinion piece. And it was an important piece. It says that the government needs to re-examine this blanket kind of ban of businesses that's going on around the country. And here's a couple quotes from the article. If the government-ordered shutdown continues much more than another week or two, the human cost of job losses and bankruptcies will exceed what most Americans imagine. This won't be popular to read in some quarters, but federal and state officials need to start adjusting their antivirus strategy now to avoid an economic recession that will dwarf the harm from 2008 to 2009. We mean a tsunami of economic destruction that will cause tens of millions to lose their jobs as commerce and production simply cease. Many large companies can withstand a few weeks without revenue, but that isn't true of millions of small and medium-sized firms. America urgently needs a pandemic strategy that is more economically and socially sustainable than the current national lockdown. Now, there's a lot of people justifying like these complete lockdowns and banning of businesses because they say that it's necessary, that we have to prevent overwhelming the healthcare system, so-called flatten the curve. However, we need to take smart action to mitigate the spread without destroying the economy. The economy is connected to so many parts of society, and in many ways, it's the backbone. Without a stable economy, it's hard to have political stability, social stability, family stability, and even psychological stability. When you're destroying the economy, you're destroying the fabric of society. And I'm not trying to minimize coronavirus and its spread. We need to take action, but we need to take smart, comprehensive action. And we need to learn from countries that have mitigated the spread of the virus but didn't have to go through extended shutdowns. We need to take lessons. And I'm not saying that we have to copy exactly what every other country that's been successful is doing, but we need to take the key insights and implement what we can in our society. Some people are talking about location tracking, right? The government needs to track everyone is going. I'm not a fan of that. I think we can do better without that. However, we need to be creative and think outside of the box. We need an alternative plan, and here's the basics of this alternative plan. Number one, shelter in place for the elderly and vulnerable. Now, we need to isolate this problem. The mortality rate is much higher for the elderly and those with existing conditions, and the mortality rate is far lower for younger people. This virus is picking those people who are vulnerable, those who are older and those with existing conditions. However, there was a recent article about hospitalizations in the US, and it showed how some younger people needed to be hospitalized as well. However, still the death rate among younger people is far, far lower than that of the elderly and vulnerable. We need to pick our battles. This is a disease that disproportionately impacts the elderly and vulnerable, and we need to protect them. Let's do a targeted shelter-in-place order for the elderly and vulnerable. Now, this makes much more sense. These blanket business bans bans and lockdowns that governments are doing all over the place shouldn't be done for more than 2 weeks max. Already that causes a great economic cost that so many individuals are going to have to deal with in their lives. After 2 weeks, we need something that's more sustainable without the economic destruction. Number 2, certified safe provider protocol for those servicing the elderly and vulnerable. Now we need to pair this with the targeted shelter-in-place order for the elderly and vulnerable. The elderly and vulnerable need services, they need groceries, they need healthcare, they need their daily needs. And counties need to create and provide safe provider protocols for those servicing the elderly and vulnerable. Those service providers should be tested negative for coronavirus recently. They need to have their temperatures checked regularly. They need to wear masks and gloves when appropriate. For example, in a nursing home, everyone who enters a nursing home, whether it's a janitor or a nurse or anyone, needs to have a negative corona test recently done. They need to have their temperature checked upon entry every time they enter. They need to wear a mask inside the nursing home. They need to wash their hands, perhaps wear gloves. For those delivering groceries to the elderly and vulnerable, we need a health protocol. For example, they need to have a negative test done recently. They need to wear a mask. They need to wear gloves. They need to spray down, right, all of the grocery items, right, before they give it to the elderly and vulnerable. Now, this service protocol to the elderly and vulnerable is crucial to be paired together with the targeted lockdown approach. These two things go hand in hand. Number 3, we need a workplace health crisis protocol. We need to borrow from some Asian countries that are being successful at that. They're able to not shut down the entire economy, but yet have their companies still go to work. First, we need to have masks at work. People need to wear that. We need to require people to do daily temperature checks upon entry. We need social distancing guidelines within works, and we need people to wear gloves when appropriate. We also need to provide ample hand sanitizers, hygiene, and sanitation within our workplaces. And further, we need rapid testing for any employee with any symptoms. And this can be effective. The economy can start working again. We can have people go to work. There are many countries in Asia that are currently doing this at this moment. Number 4, we need a transportation health crisis protocol. The virus can spread rapidly via transportation hubs. For example, the airport. At the airport, we need to have a temporary measure. Now, I'm not talking about measures that will extend beyond this. We need a temporary crisis measure that will check the temperature of everyone before they board a plane and after they board a plane. We need rapid 4-hour testing of those who have fever or symptoms. You might say, how is 4-hour testing possible? Well, it's being done in other countries. Look at China. They have a 4-hour testing protocol where a person can wait actually to get their test results. On planes, we need to require the use of masks. In taxis and ride-sharing cars, we need to require the use of masks for the driver, but we also need to require the use of a plastic barrier between the front and rear seats. Now, these temporary measures are going to cause some inconvenience in the short term, but they're far better than these blanket orders to shut down or lock down everything in the economy. Number 5, we need gathering health crisis protocol. In other words, we need to limit the size of gatherings, and as we get the virus more contained, we can slowly increase the size of gatherings to a certain size with certain protocols. For example, gatherings up till 10 people or 20 people, and we can increase it later, but let's say 10 people or 20 people can be held as long as there's social distancing protocol being met and people are wearing masks or gloves, etc. We can scale this up and loosen the protocol as we contain the virus more. Number 6, we need free testing for everyone who wants it. We need ample free testing because this creates accountability. If anyone can be tested, they can find out if they have the virus, and then they can take the precautions. For example, when we're limiting testing, we're limiting transparency. People just don't know whether they're infected or not, and it's hard for people to be careful if they don't know for sure that if they have the COVID-19 virus or not. We need rapid scaling of testing, and we need to think outside the box. The US is currently rapidly increasing testing, but we need to do better than this. We need a 10x improvement regarding the pace of how fast the tests are rolling out, even right now. Recently, Jack Ma sent 500,000 tests to the US, and now he's sending 1.1 million tests to Africa. This is almost 2 million tests secured by one individual. Surely the US as an entire country can secure millions of tests. And if we can't secure tests from domestic companies, we need to go abroad. We need to go to countries that can make tests as well. It's too late for excuses. We need to make it a priority, and we need to do it right now. There's too much wasting time playing politics. There's too much wasting time drowning in bureaucracy. Let's have some ambitious goals to secure millions and millions of tests within the next week, and let's get it done. Number 7, mask procurement. Now, we should have done this earlier. I've been talking about this for weeks, but action can still be taken now. We need to secure hundreds of millions of masks. This can be done, and it needs to be done right now. I hear so many excuses from people regarding this. And a lot of people are just thinking inside of the box, right? We think that we gotta save them just for healthcare workers, and so we just gotta conserve. And we're not thinking outside of the box is what can we do, right, to secure an ample supply of masks for healthcare workers, but also secure an ample supply of masks for all the public. Rather than thinking outside of the box, people have too many excuses. They're like, oh, we don't have enough masks, even for hospitals. But they're not doing much to really change the situation. They're not doing much to secure the hundreds of millions of masks that our country needs. We need comprehensive, urgent action, and we need it now. China is making 200 million masks a day. Now let that sink in. 200 million masks a day. South Korea is making over 10 million masks a day. The entire US population is just 327 million people. That's less than 2 days of China's production of masks. And I don't care where we get them, we need to secure these masks. Last week, Jack Ma sent 1 million masks to the US and he's selling millions more to Africa. One person is securing millions of masks. Why can't our country band together and secure hundreds of millions of masks? They are being made already right now. I believe we need efforts to secure at least 1 billion masks within the next 10 days. We need to stop wasting our time and we need to get to action. Now, some people are gonna say, oh, that's too hard, right? 1 billion masks, we can't even get 1 million masks. But 1 billion masks is just 5 days of China's production. Let's think about that. Also, if the government is not gonna take action, if the government is gonna be completely inept with mass procurement, then we need the private sector to step in as well. We need companies left and right. We need Amazon, for example, to take a step to spend $1 billion to go to China, to go to Asia, to go to different countries and secure procurement of masks enough for our country. Number 8, we need open source treatment data. We need more data about the treatment and efficacies of treatment. We need data on every patient in the world that has come down with coronavirus, and we need to know what treatment has been given and how effective it's been. And in order to secure this data, we need to be aggressive. We need to send people to every country. We need to get the data. We need to go to these hospitals and actually secure the data, saying how many patients have you had, what treatment have you given these patients, what has been the outcome. And then we need to pull all this data together and open source this data. By open sourcing this data, we're going to be able to highlight the most effective treatments. Now, this is across country, across hospitals, across languages. This is probably going to be one of the most effective ways to increase the efficacy of treatment, but also to decrease the mortality rate. Number 9, patient choice of treatment. Now, we need to let patients with COVID-19 choose the treatment that they want to have. Now, I know in our country the FDA has to approve even certain medicines for certain viruses, but this is a new novel coronavirus. This is a new disease that's spreading rapidly and very fast. We can't just from the top institute the same treatment for all patients. Rather, we need to look at the data. Let's look at the data of what treatment is working, and then let's empower the individual with that data. The person who needs the most empowering right now is the person who has the COVID-19 virus, who needs to know what the data is, what kind of treatment, what kind of risks are involved, and they need to be the ones who are making that empowered decision. This will, I believe, lower the death rate and it will lower the impact of the virus. The government shouldn't stall on this. The government shouldn't wait on this. This is common sense action. Let's give the patient the choice to decide on treatment. Number 10, vaccine fast tracking. Now, there's a lot of companies working on vaccines, and we need to bring these companies together. We need to expand funding for their efforts. And most importantly, we need to fast track the testing and the trials that these vaccines are going through. We need to work with other countries as well who are developing these vaccines, and we need to do it fast. This is not just a crisis that is affecting our country. It's affecting countries around the world. This is a global crisis that we need to pull together and combine our resources, to combine our creativity, to combine our shared knowledge, to come up with creative solutions. Once we've made some progress in our country, we need to help other countries, especially in the Southern Hemisphere. We need to be sending out test kits, we need to be sending supplies, and we need to encourage the early ramping of testing in their country. All right, there you have it, a 10-point alternative plan to contain the coronavirus spread without ruining our economy and destroying the lives of millions of people. Now, time is of the essence, and we need to get this idea, we need to get this plan out to the right people. I want to encourage you, if you know people of influence, please contact them, send them this video, and make sure that they understand there's an alternative, comprehensive, smart plan to actually deal with the coronavirus situation. Personally, I feel a lot of urgency with this matter. Every day and every hour matters. Now, you might be saying, Dave, you're just one person. What can you do? However, you have to understand how change works. It starts with the ideas. The ideas is like the seed. And right now, we have these ideas that are out there that are just thinking inside of the box. They're so narrow-minded, right? Complete lockdowns and bans and shutting down the economy, and millions of lives are being destroyed right now at this moment. We need to have ideas that are outside of the box. That are creative, that are smart, that are comprehensive, and that nail the problem on the head. And through ideas like this alternative plan that I'm presenting, we could spread, right, this idea to other people, and this can start catching on as an alternative. Before you know it, government officials and health officials will get word of an alternative plan, that it exists, and it'll start to creep into their thinking, and hopefully we'll see policy changes changes, and we'll see some major changes in how we're dealing with the situation. Now, to reach this goal, I'm going to be drafting this plan as a blog article on Medium, but I need your guys' help. I need a few people who see eye to eye with what I'm saying at this moment, and I need some people who have some really deep experience with research and creating reports. If you're that type of person, please contact me at davelee.tv. Fill out the form and reach out to me. Let me know that you're available to help. On Monday, I'm going to be releasing the blog post on Medium, and I'm going to be doing another YouTube video to explain the alternative plan. In the meantime, I encourage you, please forward this video to other people. It doesn't matter who they are. Forward it to your friends. Try to get the seed of the idea out so people can start thinking about it, and then they can start spreading the word. If you work in a company, send it to your other coworkers and send it to your CEO as well. It might expand their ideas of what's possible, and they can also forward it to other people. If you're running an influential YouTube channel, please go ahead and use this alternative plan. I don't care who takes credit for this. You can just copy all 10 points. It doesn't matter. Let's get the word out. Let's get the idea out so we can have an alternative to the economic destruction that's taking place at this moment. All right, I want to close with a few thoughts on timing. You know, I think timing is extremely crucial. There are certain times in history where we need to step in or step up, and it can change, right, the course of history in a lot of ways. And I think right now is an important time. We need to step in with a common sense solution. We need to step in with a comprehensive, smart solution to get this virus under control, but also to stop the economic destruction that's taking place, harming millions and millions of lives of people. I do believe we'll get through this crisis, but the question is, how will we get through this crisis? How much of the cost and the pain are we going to defer, right, to future generations? How much of the cost and pain are we just going to toss onto the single mom and the single parent right now who is struggling, or people who are living paycheck to paycheck? How much are we just going to discard the condition of those who are economically vulnerable at this time? We need to take a step back, and we need to take a step back from the mob hysteria and the fright and the fear that's going on. We need to look through it, and we need to have clarity to make the right decisions. All right, I wish you guys all the best, and we'll see you in my next video. Thanks.